The last section we want to look at is multiplying polynomials in general. So in order to complete this section, you do need to know how to understand the distributive property. You need to be able to apply rules of exponents, mostly the product rule, and you need to know how to multiply, add, and subtract monomials. Upon completing this presentation, you will be able to multiply a binomial with a trinomial and multiply two trinomials. Just like in all the other ones that we've talked about, we're going to use the basic idea of what it means to multiply polynomials together. The trick for this is multiply everything in the first set by everything in the second set. For each term, we want to multiply the coefficients together, add the exponents for each variable, and as soon as we are done with multiplying, we will combine our like terms. There are three main organizational techniques to multiply polynomials. We can do this horizontally, like we did when we multiplied the binomials. We can use distribution by separating the problem so that you multiply the second set by each term of the first set. And we can do this vertically, similar to when you multiply numbers with 2 or more digits by hand. We're going to look at all three of these techniques in the first example, and then after that, whichever one you feel comfortable, you may want to move to that slide in order to see the problems worked out as well. So we have our first example, 2x plus 3 times x squared plus 4x. So the first thing that we want to do is I'm going to do this horizontally. So horizontally, let's rewrite the problem. I'm going to start by multiplying everything in the second set by 2x. So when we do this, we get 2x times x squared. We multiply our coefficients, we add our exponents. 2x times 4x, we multiply our coefficients, 2 times 4 is 8, add our exponents, or x times x is x squared. And then 2x times 5, multiply the numbers, we get 10, and we keep our x. Okay, that takes care of the first half of this problem. So now the second half is I want to redo the same thing, but I'm going to multiply by the 3. So I'm going to multiply everything in the second term by 3. We get 3 times x squared is 3x squared. We get 3 times 4x is 12x, and 3 times 5 is 15. All right, from there, we want to go ahead and combine our like terms. 2x cubed has nothing to combine with, so I'm just going to bring it down. 8x squared and 3x squared combine to give me, add my numbers, keep my variable, keep my exponent. We get 11x squared. We can combine 10x with 12x to give me 22x, and then we have our 15. And we're done. So this is multiplying horizontally. So now let's redo the same problem, but we're going to talk about this doing distribution. And again, remember that these are just different organizational tools that you can use to do this. So Let's write out our problem again. So what I want to do is I want to multiply 2x times everything here. So I'm just going to separate this into 2x times all of this stuff. Plus, I want to multiply 3 times everything over here. And what we get when we do this, this is exactly the same thing that we did before, but we're kind of just making it a little easier on the eyes so that we're not having to kind of look back and forth and am I doing the right thing here. So from here what we're going to do is distribute, and we'll get the same thing that we got last time. 2x times x squared gives me 2x cubed. 2x times 4x gives me 8x squared, and 2x times 5 gives me 10x. Note that that's exactly what we got up at the top. Okay, we want to multiply everything in the second thing by 3. We get 3x squared. 3 times 4x is 12x, and 3 times 5 is 15. Same thing. I get the same thing that I got up here. And now when we combine our like terms, we have our 2x cubed my 8x squared and my 3x squared still combine to give me 11x squared. My 10x and my 12x still combine to give me 22x, and I still have my plus 15. So basically, if you notice here, we're doing the same thing, okay? It's just a matter of, are you doing it in your head or are you showing the step on paper? So now I'm going to show you another way that you can do this, which is vertically. Vertically, if you're good at multiplying 2 and 3 digit numbers, we're going to do kind of the same thing. So for the vertical method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my larger polynomial on top, the one that has more terms, just like I would with a 2 and 3 digit number. I would put my 3 digit number on top, and I would put my 2 digit number on the bottom. Does it matter? No. So now what we're going to do is multiply this just like we do when we multiply 2 and 3 digit numbers by hand. I'm going to start at the right, and I want to multiply every term on the top by 3. We don't have to worry about carrying when we do this, which is one of the nice things. So I get 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4x is 12x. And 3 times x squared is 3x squared. All right, that takes care of that portion. So now I want to multiply everything on top by 2x. So I get 2x times 5 is 10x. And where do I want to put it? Well, just like we do with 2 and 3 digit numbers, we want to line up our variable terms. So I want to push it to the side, just like I do with 2 and 3 digit numbers. More importantly, since it has an x term, I want to line it up underneath my other x term. So we get 2x times 5 is 10x. 2x times 4x is 8x squared. and 2x times x squared is 2x cubed. One of the other nice things about doing this vertically is if you've done it correctly, your like terms should be lined up vertically. From here, all we have to do is add straight down, just like we did with the 2 and 3-digit numbers. So I get 15, 22x, 11x squared, and 2x cubed. Exactly what I got on the other ones. So, as I mentioned, it doesn't matter how you do this. Just pick a method that makes more sense to you. Which organizational technique works best for you. So in the next slide, I'm going to do the last 2 examples horizontally. That's going to be slide number 5. Slide number 6 will be using distribution, and slide number 7 will be vertically. Okay, so again, these ones we're going to go ahead and multiply horizontally. Remember that we want to multiply the coefficients together and add the exponents. So when we do problem A, or B in this case, we want to go ahead and multiply 2x squared times 5x cubed. We multiply the numbers, we get 10. Add our exponents, we get x to the 5th. Multiply our 2x squared times negative 4x squared, we get minus 8 x to the 4th. Multiply 2x squared times 7x, we get plus 14 x cubed. That takes care of the 2x squared. So now let's go ahead and multiply everything in the second thing by minus 3x. If we do this, we get minus 3x times 5x cubed. We get minus 15 x to the 4th. Minus 3x times minus 4x squared. We want to change our sign to a plus. Negative times a negative. 3 times 4 is 12. Add our exponents, we get x cubed. And finally, 3x times 7x, or minus 3x times 7x, we get minus 21x squared. Our last step, we want to go ahead and combine our like terms. We have our 10x to the 5th has nothing to combine with, so we'll just bring it down. We have negative 8x to the 4th and negative 15x to the 4th. They have same signs, so we're going to add and keep the sign. We get negative 23x to the 4th. We have 14x cubed, and 12x cubed gives me 26x cubed. And then we have our minus 21x squared. And we're done. Okay, so now multiplying horizontally works really well if you're multiplying by a binomial, but it does become tricky when we start working with trinomials. So let's go ahead and try a trinomial. Again, it's going to be kind of the same idea. We want to multiply everything in the first set by everything in the second set. So we're going to have to do our multiplication 3 times. So let's go ahead and start. We want to multiply everything in the second thing by x squared. So if we do this, we get x squared times 4x squared is 4x to the 4th. X squared times 2x is 2x cubed. X squared times 5 is plus 5 x squared. Now, if you're drawing the arrows, you probably have top and bottom ones. So here we go. Let's go ahead and do the minus 5x on the bottom. So if we multiply negative 5x times 4x squared, I get minus 20x cubed. Minus 5x times 2x is minus 10x squared. And minus 5x times 5 is minus 25x. So as you can see, on mine, and I'm trying to write pretty small here, I've already run out of room, and I haven't even finished yet. So one of the things that you can do is you can do a combination of different techniques. For instance, you can go ahead and write these things so that they do stack up on top of each other with like terms. But as I said, we are only 2/3 the way through. We still need to multiply by the negative 3. So the other thing about this is that I no longer have a top and bottom to put my arrows, so where do I put them? That's another thing that runs into, that makes multiplying horizontally a little bit challenging when we talk about trinomials. So let's see here. I'm going to put it up at the top. So we have negative 3 times 4x squared is minus 12x squared times the 2x, we get minus 6x, and times the 5, we get minus 15. Okay, that takes care of our multiplication step. Now we want to do our combine like terms step. So we have 4x to the 4th. It has nothing to combine with, so I'm going to go ahead and just bring it down. My 2x cubed can combine with minus 20x cubed, giving me minus 18x cubed. My 5x squared can combine with negative 10x squared and negative 12x squared, giving us negative 17x squared. My negative 25x and my negative 6x can combine. We have same sign, so I'm going to add and keep the sign. We get negative 31x. And then I still have my minus 15. And so there's this one done horizontally. As I said, when we get to trinomials, it gets a lot harder to make little notes to yourself. And I always encourage you to make little notes to yourself as far as what are you doing at that particular time. Okay, so that takes care of some examples done horizontally. In the next slide, we're going to go ahead and do this using distribution, and the slide after that will be vertically. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at an example of multiplying using distribution. So remember, distribution is similar to what we did in the previous slide, except for we're just going to separate the problem out into smaller problems. So my first step is I want to multiply 2x squared times everything in the second set of parentheses minus 3x times everything in the second set of parentheses. So if we go ahead and do this now, we get 2x squared times 5x cubed is 10x to the 5th. 2x squared times negative 4x squared is minus 8x x to the fourth. 2x squared times 7x is 14x cubed. For the second part, we get minus 3x times 5x cubed is minus 15x to the fourth. Negative 3x times negative 4x squared is plus 12x cubed. And negative 3x times 7x is minus 21x squared. Combining like terms, we get 10x to the fifth. We can combine our x to the fourths, giving us minus 23x to the fourth. We can combine our x cubes, giving us plus 26x cubed. And then we have our minus 21x squared. And that is multiplying a binomial and a trinomial. So now let's look at two trinomials. This is one where distribution may be very beneficial to you. As I said, you know, when multiplying horizontally, you can only draw arrows on the top and bottom. That leaves it to be difficult to do when we get to that third term. Where do we put our arrows? So let's see what we can do here. I want to multiply x squared times 4x squared plus 2x plus 5. I want to multiply minus 5x times 4x squared plus 2x plus 5. And then I want to multiply negative 3 times 4x squared plus 2x plus 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and break this down into each one of these individual problems. For the first one, we get x squared times 4x squared is 4x to the fourth. X squared times 2x is 2x cubed. X squared times 5 is 5x squared. Moving on to the second one, we get negative 5x times 4x squared is minus 20x cubed. Negative 5x times 2x is minus 10x squared. And negative 5x times 5 is minus 25x. And finally, for the last one, we get negative 3 times 4x squared is minus 12x squared. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And negative 3 times 5 is minus 15. Let's combine our like terms. We have 4x to the fourth, does not combine with anything. We have our 2x cubed and our minus 20x cubed combined to give us minus 18x cubed. We have our 5x squared, negative 10x squared, and negative 12x squared gives us negative 17x squared. Negative 25x and negative 6x gives us negative 31x. And our minus 15 has nothing to combine with. And so we are done. Now let's look at some examples of multiplying vertically and get a little bit more practice with that if you want it. So remember that multiplying vertically, what we're going to do is start off by putting our larger polynomial on top and our smaller one on bottom. Though technically it does not matter. This is just kind of how I learned how to multiply 2- and 3-digit numbers, was always putting the larger one on top. So I'm going to put 4x cubed minus 4x squared plus 7x. Underneath that, I'm going to put the 2x squared minus 3x. And to start with, we're going to multiply everything on the top by minus, make sure you keep your negative, 3x. So if we do this, we get minus 21x squared. That's the minus 3x times 7x. Next, I want to multiply minus 3x times minus 4x squared, which will give me plus 12x to the third. And then I want to multiply my negative 3x by 5x cubed, giving me minus 15x to the fourth. Okay, then that's our first round. So now we go on to our second round, and I want to multiply everything on top by 2x squared. So we get 2x squared times 7x is going to be plus 14x cubed. And again, I want to line up my x cubes with my x cubes to make the next step easier. I'm going to multiply my 2x squared times my negative 4x squared, giving me negative 8x to the fourth. And finally, I want to multiply 2x squared times 5x cubed, giving me 10x to the fifth. We add straight down, and it doesn't matter whether you start on left or right on this. So starting on the left, I get 10x to the fifth minus 23x to the fourth. Remember that since we are adding, we keep the exponents the same. We get 26x cubed minus 21x squared. And we're done. Now, as I said, one of the real benefits of using this multiplication strategy is when we get to multiplying trinomials, because we don't have arrows that we can put on the paper. We can put two sets, but we cannot put a third one without it getting really sloppy looking. So this is where multiplying vertically really comes in handy. Now, for this problem, as they are both trinomials, it doesn't matter which one we put on top, but I'm going to put the 4x squared plus 2x plus 5 on top, just because it has more coefficients. Don't ask me why. That's just going to be my reason. I'll stick with it. For the second one, we have x squared minus 5x minus 3 on bottom. And now we want to go ahead and multiply, just like we do with 2 and 3 digit numbers. So the first thing that I'm going to do is multiply everything on top by negative 3. If we do that, we get negative 5 times, or 5 times negative 3, or negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. If we multiply negative 3 times 2x, we get negative 6x. And if we multiply negative 3 times 4x squared, we get minus 12x squared. Now let's go ahead and multiply by the negative 5x. And so if we multiply by negative 5x, what we're going to end up with is negative 5x times 5 is negative 25x. We multiply negative 5x times 2x, and we get negative 10x squared. And if we multiply negative 5x times 4x squared, we get negative 20x cubed. So that takes care of multiplying by our negative 5x. So now we want to multiply by x squared. And so if I multiply by x squared times 5 is 5x squared, and I want to put it underneath my x squared, so we get 5x squared, and it is positive. We want to multiply x squared times 2x. That gives me 2x cubed, and again it's positive. And then finally, x squared times 4x squared gives me 4x to the fourth. It's also positive, but as this is my leftmost term, I don't have to necessarily put a plus sign there. Okay, then from here we go back to our final step, which is add straight down. So starting on the left, I get 4x to the fourth. Negative 20 plus 2 is negative 18x cubed. We have negative 12 plus negative 10 is negative 22. Plus 5 is negative 17. So negative 17x squared. Negative 6 and negative 25 give me negative 31x. Same sign, so we add and keep the sign. And then bring down the minus 15. And we're done. So this is multiplying vertically. Now, you don't need to be familiar with every single method for multiplying. Pick one that makes the most sense to you and that you find easiest to understand. And you can use this on any kind of polynomial that you're multiplying. So when will we see this again? In the next chapter, we will be talking about factoring. And factoring is the exact opposite of multiplying polynomials. So when we talk about breaking apart a polynomial, you want to understand how it comes together. You will also be using these methods in order to check your factorings, which is something that you should always do, but in this class it will also be required. So now try the following problems on your own, bring them to class along with any other questions that you have. Please take a few moments and answer the following questions. How confident are you with the material presented in this section? What from this section needs to be explained further? And how much more guided practice do you need to be comfortable with the topic?